Welcome to the Fit for Halter podcast. I'm your host, Amy Zabel, and I wanted to take a minute to say thank you. The Fit for Halter listeners have shown up big time with listens, likes, and shares. You guys have been great supporters. This episode is sponsored by Holman Halter Horses from Hempstead, Texas. Joe and Karina offer a full-service facility that includes breeding, showing, fitting, and sales of all major stock breeds. They are dedicated to helping you achieve goals you never thought possible. You can trust them to raise, select, or fit your next champion. You can find them on Facebook, Instagram, or their website at Holman Halter Horses. Welcome to Fit for Halter. I'm your host, Amy Zabel, and I'm excited to introduce to you Clint Fullerton. He is a multi-carded judge, takes a few training horses on the side, and has been in this industry for decades. So here we go. Clint, would you kick it off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Amy. Thanks for having me. My name's Clint Fullerton. I was born into the horse industry. My dad was a horse trainer. Been showing horses my whole life. I'm a multi-carded judge. I have trained, shown, and coached the earners of over 250 world champions, the great majority of that in halter. I have judged all of the major horse shows: the quarter horse world, the paint horse world, the Palomino world, buckskin world, Pinto world, Appaloosa world, along with the Breeders' Hall to Futurity many times, the WCHA Futurity, and the Quarter Horse Congress.
Awesome. That's quite a list.
I've enjoyed it.
I can tell. I can tell. So tell us, when did you enter the halter horse world?
So, like I said, I was born the son of a horse trainer. I was born in December, and my first horse show I attended was the Houston Livestock Show in February, I believe it was, February, early March. After I was born in December, my parents put me in a crib and off I went. But I showed my very first halter horse at 5 years old at the Kansas State Fair. Obviously worked with the family operation. We had to help fit horses, ride horses, all that kind of stuff. Showed my entire childhood. Went out on my own when I was 19, started my own business, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
Awesome. We appreciate your investment in the industry.
Thank you.
Tell us, yeah. In regard to your halter horse journey, what are you most proud of?
You know, I've got so many different ones, so many different horses that have been really good to me. I'm just proud of the great horses that I've had and the great clients. And I've had a lot of very, very long-term clients over the years that when I kind of quit training, full time and started going the judging route, I'd had a client that had horses with me for 21 years.
Wow.
When I decided to change venues and change what I was doing. But I've had some great, great horses. Leading Stallions, RH Imprinted was really good for me. He's a APHA Hall of Fame horse. And then I had a great mare that won the Quarter Horse World and the Paint Horse World named She's Fancy Fancy. It's one of my favorites, and she was very good to me. So I'm probably the most proud of the clients, the connections that I made, the friendships, and the horses have been the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I am familiar with RH Imprinted, at least on my horse's papers anyway. So see his name quite a bit. So tell us, what is it about being a judge that is a joy to you?
I get to go watch horse shows and get paid for it. I've always said I'm glad they pay me for it, because I would actually, if they just knew, I would be there to watch it anyway. So
that's a great strategy.
Yes, I judge anywhere from 30 to 40 horse shows a year, every year, and I rarely have a week home. And I came home from, I think one year I did like 38 shows. And I came home from the horse show, and some friends of mine were showing it at open horse show here in Kansas City. And I went down there and watched the show and watched my friend show. And they were like, I can't believe you'd come to a horse show when that's all you do. And so that's me. I can still remember years ago, my grandmother was getting up in years, and she was my favorite person. I told her, I said, I'm going to buy plane tickets and we're going to have a vacation. Just you and me. We're going to go to Florida and do real people stuff. Epcot Center, SeaWorld, Disney World. We'll just go to Florida, spend a week. She said, okay. We flew down there. I spent the first day at Epcot Center standing in lines waiting to go. And I asked her, I said, would you hate me if I said I don't like this? And we can rent a car and go to Ocala, Florida and look at horse farms. And she laughed and she says, okay. So we went to Ocala, Florida, toured thoroughbred farms one day. We were driving the next day past a showgrounds. There was a hunter jumper show going on. And so the rest of the time I stayed at the hunter jumper show and my grandma read a book under a tree. And so it's just horses for me. I'm a one
It
trick,
is. I love it. She was happy because you were happy.
very much
So
so. But I tried
that's
the real
awesome.
people stuff and it just didn't work.
Yeah, I hear you. What's one of the hardest things about being a judge?
I just don't think there is. I enjoy the travel. I enjoy all of the disciplines. I love the all around. There's not a class I don't enjoy judging. Any great horse in any venue really works for me. Um, I'm kind of gypsy at heart, so I love to travel. Staying home is not my thing. COVID was very hard for me because that's the only 60 days of my entire life I've ever been home. My dad was a road warrior, so I've just always traveled. So I know some judges say they hate the travel, the airports. I've never felt that. I enjoy going to horse shows. So I just don't think there's a hard part. And it doesn't get tiring when you just call a spade, right? It's just it scores how it scores. The horses that win. You just call it like it's supposed to, and you just don't have to worry about things.
Yeah, that's awesome. It makes me think about what it's like to be in the ring with you as the judge, knowing that that is absolutely what you love
Mhm.
day in and day out.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, um, we hear about the term form to function quite a bit. Can you explain what that is, and why does it matter to those of us who are bringing our horses into the ring?
Conformation is a great predictor of ability to perform. Horses that have strong top lines, strong hips, great legs, those horses are built to drive off of their hind end. So those horses run faster, slide harder, perform better. So that balance and that conformation truly does go help you decide if that horse is going to perform. A lot of the racehorse trainers, they like buying those horses at yearlings, watching them walk, looking at their build. It's a great predictor if they're going to stay sound and if they can do their job properly.
Do you find that the halter horse that's winning today is successful at becoming a rider in ranch classes or any under saddle class?
No, but I don't believe that's because they couldn't. I believe we've just developed a culture over the years of the specialization, and those horses aren't being asked to. I remember years ago when Doug Lilly showed Diversified, and um, he won the 2-year-old Western Pleasure on him, and then Ted Turner won the 3-year-old Stallions and the age Stallions with him. He was such a great horse, but we used to ask him to do other things. And I remember watching Mr. Impressive ride when I was a kid. Ray Logan winning the pleasure on him. He was a great pleasure horse, great halter horse. But the specialization started, and we got to where we didn't ask those horses to ride anymore. And then I think we crossed over into an era of the horses were too big, too muscled, and kind of freakish on the freakish side. And I think we have done a great job of bringing it back to the middle, and the elegant, balanced horses that aren't so wide and carry extreme muscle are winning again. I think these horses could easily perform. And hopefully we'll get back to people asking them to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've noticed that as well. I'm new as an amateur exhibitor, new in the last year and a half, but I remember as a kid looking at the journal and the chronicle and thinking how massively muscled they were. Then I show up at a horse show with my own horse and notice how much more lean, how much lighter they are, and yet still the attractive muscle that is appealing to me,
Yes.
but not nearly as heavy. Not nearly
Right.
as heavy.
You
Yeah.
certainly want muscle definition and quality of
Yeah.
muscle, but not the freakish. And I can honestly say over the years, I never went for that style of horse. I never got caught up in that. A lot of my great halter friends over the years would always make laugh that they didn't need any hind leg to win under Clint. They'd, one of my friends says they don't have to have the hind leg of a chicken to win under Clint. And I would laugh because I just never went for the freakishly large horses, and I never showed the freakishly overbuilt horses. I always liked that modern, sleek, beautiful, balanced look. And I think we have gotten away from the freakish horses for a while now. And I think we are at a great place in the halter horse world where legs matter, balance matters, prettiness matters. And I think those horses could definitely ride.
Yeah. What are some of your top do's and don'ts for the amateur halter exhibitor?
The amateur halter exhibitor, I think some of the biggest um, do's and don'ts are together. The fit of the halter is a major thing. I see a lot of amateurs come in with a halter horse that's a very nice horse, but the halter's hanging off its head, and it takes away from the whole overall look. And then the horses aren't trained properly. They're not broke to set up. The judge can't get a fair look at them. And so understand how to fit that halter to the horse's head and get the horse incredibly broke. That's so important. I've always said pleasure horses have to lope around on the correct lead on a draped rein. A jumping horse has to go to a fence and jump over it. A reining horse has to slide. When you say whoa, they have to slide to a stop. The least you can do on a halter horse is get it broke to stand up square and properly in show.
Yeah, that's good. Anything else that a brand new person to the industry should know as they enter the ring?
Know how the classes are supposed to work. Know how to mouth the horse properly if you're showing a mare or stallion. A lot of people don't understand showing the teeth, that it's the top and bottom lip, and you can do it one-handed. A lot of people don't know when a judge steps to the side, you should start trotting and turn left at the cone, not 70 feet past it. Then bring the horse up into the arena and make sure the horse is set squarely with the arena, led into position. When a judge is profiling a horse, if that horse is set straight with the arena and not at an angle, you get to see the horse at its best light. If the horse is pointed away from the judge, their neck's going to look shorter, their hip's going to look bigger. You have the horse too close to the judge, aimed towards the judge, that horse is going to look weak hipped. So to get the best advantage, make sure you're very straight with the arena. The little things matter, details matter in halter.
Mm.
And
Do you,
the
as a judge,
conformation,
oh, sorry,
oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
the conformation does change. If there's a low spot in the arena and that's where you stop the horse's front end, the horse looks like he runs downhill, and maybe he doesn't run downhill. If you set the horse up too tight underneath itself, it could look poor in the hocks when it's a good hocked horse. Or if you stretch it out too much, the top line falls and it looks like it has a weak top line. So showing your horse and knowing how to present that horse is critical.
What about grooming,
Got to be
clipping and
passionate.
grooming?
You have to groom. Those horses have to have the very best hair coats, be on the best nutrition plan and fitness plan. And there's really not a lot of tricks to it. People don't realize that just spending that half hour a day grooming, that 15 minutes of work in the round pen or ponying every day consistently can get you a long ways. I've always, the best alfalfa hay money could buy and a good grain. I think you should invest your money in the feed, but it's just simple. It's just consistency.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned consistency. How specific, when you if you were to suggest to somebody what a consistent schedule looks like, does that mean feeding at the same time every day, or does that mean workouts at the same time? Like, how drilled down into that do you get?
We are very scheduled with me, but there's time. It doesn't, if you don't have to work the horse at 10 o'clock every morning, uh, I'm a morning person myself, so I like to start early, but the horses get fed on time. But what I mean by it is daily routine as far as grooming, daily setting that horse up. If you really set that horse up 3 times a day and it's just 5 minutes, that horse is broke to get set up. Practice that standing, what whoa means, and then that consistent workout program. So for me, our aged horses, they either get ponied or put in a round pen. We do both. We have a racetrack where I'm at, so we can pony, and we've done the round pen as well, but we'll work the majority of them 15 minutes, in deeper ground with neck sweats on, and just that 15 minutes, and then we'll put them on a horse walker and they'll walk for 30 minutes. And they do that 5 days a week, and then 2 days a week they're turned out for free time for an hour. But that routine is very consistent. We don't miss.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I notice in a lot of the Facebook groups, people asking that question about the duration of a workout and the frequency of a workout. And I realize that depends on the age of the horse probably as well.
It does. My baby colts never work over 6 minutes. And the thing is, if you look at it, the longer the workout, just think of it as a cross-country runner. Those people train and run marathons. They train and run miles and miles. And notice how lean their muscle is and how long their muscle is. And then the bodybuilder, weightlifter person goes in and, a runner will run 2 and 3 hours a day, and a bodybuilder will go in and work 30 minutes to an hour tops. And they lift heavy weight in short reps, and look at the muscle difference. Look how their muscle is bigger, tighter, bunchier. So yeah, we're looking for that more muscle definition.
You've mentioned a couple of things that you're looking at specifically, the muscle definition, conformation, and balance. Is there anything else that you're looking at as a judge across the board at everybody who's in the ring? Is there anything else that you're looking at?
Balance is key. Balance is number one. Obviously, soundness. Soundness, balance, structure, conformation, muscle, and sex characteristics. A mare looking like a mare, a stallion looking like a stallion. That it looks like they're gender specific.
Okay. Well, we got a little off track from judging to workouts, but I know that people are hungry for that information, of some concrete, real practical information. So thank you. What improvements have you seen? You've mentioned a couple of them already, but what other improvements have you seen in the stock horse industry, specifically in halter?
Halter, I think, like we mentioned earlier, the biggest move that we've made is back to the middle ground horse, the horse that is not overdone, and a horse that, years ago an age gelding needed to be 16.2 to 17 hands to compete. And now you could see a 15.2 hand horse win. And a 15.2 hand horse is plenty big enough. We've gotten away from the massive size, and I think that is great. And then we've also gotten back to good legs and feet. There for a while, we had some bloodlines that were not known for leg production and feet production, and the soundness in their feet and legs. And now it's critical. I don't know of any place that you can show horses at any level of judge that doesn't require those horses to be good in their feet and their legs these days.
That's awesome. Good to hear. What do you see as the greatest need in our industry?
I think our greatest need is to get the futurity programs back into place. Years ago, we used to have lots of different state futurities where people could haul a baby around to several different local futurities, regional futurities, state futurities, and win money. And Uh, I think that we now have the Breeders' Halter Futurity and the WCHA, I think single-handedly came back in and revitalized the halter horse industry. And both the Breeders' Halter Futurity Board and the WCHA, for their futurity, deserve tons of credit for resurrecting and preserving the halter horse and what we've done. I would like to see some more incentive for the older horses to stay in and not just, babies and yearlings. I'd like to see where we start to show those older horses longer again and have the class sizes. But I think there's going to have to be some money put up for that as well. And how the best way to go about and develop that program, I don't know. I mean, I think we've launched correctly with the weanlings and the yearlings. Now we have to figure out how to say we need an older group of horses to come on to. I want to make sure that we are breeding the right kind of horse right now. We are breeding a modern, leaner, prettier horse. And I think that, but I want to make sure we're not breeding for babies. I want to make sure we're breeding for horses with long-term longevity. I want those horses to keep improving. And, one of the horses that I think is the best modernizer of our industry was Mr. Conclusion. He was that horse that wasn't overdone, wasn't overbuilt, but those horses always had the reputation of keep coming. They just got better every day they lived. And I mentioned one of my favorite horses was RH Imprinted. His mother was Squeezing and Pleasing. She was by Mr. Conclusion. And the one thing we found out with RH Imprinted is he produced like his mother, in the fact that if you like the baby, it was just every day it lived was its time was its friend. It was going to get better and better. So we're doing the right thing. I just want to make sure that older horses stay in the mix and we're not breeding for just a baby.
That's good. You mentioned the state futurities. I think there's only a handful of those left. Are there any?
Correct.
Do you have any insight in how at the state level we can bring some of those back or grow the futurities at the more local level?
I don't see how we can with the current environment. I think that the state futurities were so good back in the day because artificial insemination was not in play. So every state had 50 to 100 local stallions. Everybody had a local horse they could breed to, and those local stallions paid in. I know in the state of Missouri, we had like 128, 130 stud nominations of horses that were paying it every year to the state futurity. So we had a local base, and we've always had the famous horses spread out. If back in the day, if you took your mare to breed to Impressive when he was in Oklahoma, if you sent your mare from California to breed to Impressive, then you picked her up, you took her back to California, she had her baby, you loved the baby, but you loved it so much you weren't willing to put her in the trailer and haul her 25 hours back. You bred her to a local horse. The next year, that local horse had a chance to become a producer and go on. So with artificial insemination, we started breeding to a very tight group of stallions that were of national prominence. We quit using the local stallions. The people who had the local stallions never got the opportunities that the big horses were getting, and they weren't paying their way, and so they quit standing stallions. They just quit our business. So I don't know how to get those state futurities back, because the national level horses, which I've been very fortunate to stand several of those national level horses, we would honestly get asked to support 30 different futurities. And how can we give away 30 breedings a year? You can't. So the national horse can't support the local state level. It's not they don't want to, they just simply can't. How do I tell Missouri I'll do it, but I won't do it for California? I won't do it for Texas when there's a group of mares there breeding as well. So I don't know how to bring it back unless we'd make the hard decision to say, in our associations, to back up and say artificial insemination, we've given it a chance and that's not working. I think the thoroughbreds have stayed strong in their value over the years because they've only allowed the live cover. And I shouldn't say artificial insemination. I've kind of spoke wrongly. It ships semen.
Mm-hmm.
Artificial insemination on the farms, I don't think that's a problem. So I need to correct my statement. Artificial insemination is not bad, but the ship semen where they could just fly in semen for those mares, that's what has wrecked the state futurities. So I want to make that correction real quick. But
yeah, absolutely.
If you needed the local stallions,
Mm-hmm.
you need the local stallions.
So it sounds like with fewer stallions available, many of our stallions have dropped out of that kind of particular area of our industry. Do you see, how does that reflect your role as a judge? When you walk into the ring, are you seeing a lot of babies that are by the same sire? And if so, how does that impact your role as a judge? How does it impact our industry?
Well, as a judge, you just get to see what they bring to you. So I will tell you as a judge and an exhibitor, when the ship semen was very, very popular, you would see stallions that would breed a lot of mares. And like if that stallion had leg issues and was prevalent to throwing leg issues, you got to see a lot of babies, a lot of horses that had those leg issues. And when so many people bred to it and your gene pool gets smaller and smaller, it's hard to get rid of those faults. And it takes a while because there's only a base of horses that people are breeding to. And I appreciate the national stallions and think they deserve everything that they get and those horses, but at some point you have to have outcrosses. And those local stallions that everybody used to stand and have and had value were our outcross. And I think we've lost a lot of that outcross.
If you're a person who understands the need for an outcross, how do you recommend that we find those stallions? Is there a source for locating them?
I don't think we're needing, obviously, if we had the means for people to go find a stallion, I don't think the outcross is going to come in the form of stallions. I think the outcross is going to come in the form of mares. I think we have to be able to look for those deep-bodied pleasure mares, pleasure-bred mares that have the deep heart girths, the nice short backs, the long croups that are bred a little differently, or the cow horse mares or something like that. I don't think people are going to support a stud that's an outcross. I think that ship has sailed. So I think we're going to have to do it more through the mares to try to get that in. And as breeders, we have to be able to look for those mares and know them when we see them and give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
And when the paints started, when the Quarter Horse Association started taking the colored mares that were quarter horse back in their pedigrees and had thrown excessive white, there was an instant outcross that happened because those paint mares got to come into play now as newly registered quarter horse mares. And we did get to see a benefit of some outcross. But then now we have tightened up that as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks for explaining that. I appreciate it for my own benefit, but also I know for listeners as well. So tell me the funniest thing that happened to you while you were standing in the middle of the ring as a judge. Funniest memory.
I honestly don't think I haven't had the kind of boom. I haven't had anything really funny happen. I mean, I've judged all over the world. I've judged in Australia 5 times. I've judged all over Europe and everything else. I've never seen anything that I thought was hilariously funny that's happened. And if I've heard stories of things happening to people or exhibitors, and I honestly don't think that's quite as funny as my heart goes out to them that something like that would happen, that they'd have to go through it.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Well, thank you. We appreciate your time and investment in the industry, long-standing career as a judge, an exhibitor, trainer. We just appreciate the investment that you've made and the time that you took tonight to explain a variety of things, including what it's like to be a judge. So thank you. We appreciate you. And
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. So that's a wrap for our episode, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Appreciate it.